Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we have the tier list for patch 17.3. There were a lot of changes to the new patch, especially on how people are actually playing the game because they changed how the gods worked a bit. You can now pretty much handpick your god every time, but they also nerfed one cost reroll a lot, and we're going to talk about that and how that changes the meta. Right now in the SNA tier, there are only 6 comps. Now that sounds worse than it actually is because a lot of these are level 8 and 9 comps, meaning that multiple people can go for them. So there are a lot of different versions of these couple of comps. But let's start off in the S tier. Right now, Corki Riven is probably going to be the best 4-cost comp out there right now. There are just a lot of different carries you can use here, and a lot of the items they build can be used in a bunch of different comps also. So if you don't like this comp, you could always get into something else. But there is one little thing you need to pay attention to when you do play this comp. I'll talk more about that when we get into the individual comp rundowns after the tier list overview. Next up we have is Dark Stars. Still very strong. Kai'Sa's still good. She got a small nerf, but doesn't stop her helping her team get into the late game, and Karma is so strong right now. I think Karma is one of the best 4-cost units out there. Vex Fast 9 is going to round out the S tier. If you are able to Fast 9, still a great comp to play with. And then in the A tier, we have Aurelion Sol AP Flex. Aurelion Sol, he was super OP at the start of the patch, but they put out a hotfix on it. So he is a lot more manageable now, but still very good to play, especially since he could be played with so many different comps out there. Brawler Yi, still very solid. It's not an auto force anymore. Last patch, it was like auto force Yi when you didn't know what to do. And last up we have is Lulu Reroll. Lulu is still very good. They removed Horizon Focus, which was a S tier artifact item for Lulu on the Mountain Constellation. But it doesn't really matter because Lulu is still very, very strong option at 3-cost reroll. If you're lose streaking, I highly recommend considering Lulu because she's very easy to stabilize with in stage 3, which is exactly what you need to be doing when you are lose streaking. Next up in the B tier, Leblanc is okay-ish. Urgot, seen better days. Twisted Fate reroll definitely dropped down a bit. Keep in mind, with 1-cost reroll, when one of them is bad or one of them gets nerfed a lot, the rest suffer also. So because all the 1-cost rerolls got nerfed a little bit, a lot fewer people are going to be playing them, so it means that there are going to be more 1-cost units in the pool, which makes it harder to do whatever 1-cost reroll you wanted to play with initially. Still playable though, not completely horrible, but just something to consider. And then yeah, we got a bunch of pretty much all the other comps down here. Some notes from the patch notes review that I did before. I thought Misfortune reroll might be okay. It's not, it's still not that great. Same with Diana. Pretty much don't play Diana right now. And yeah. So we're going to do a big focus on these top 6 comps in this video, and if you master these, I guarantee you will climb. These are going to be like the bread and butters of the patch. So let's start off with the first comp we have is Corki Riven. So the most important thing you need to do with Corki Riven is itemize your carries one at a time. So obviously in the comp you want to run Rammus, 2 Bastion or 4 Bastion, both work, and then you want to go with Corki and Riven. So when people do that and they know all 3 units are important, sometimes what happens is they build items for each of the different units. So let's say you're in stage 5-1, you have 2 items on Rammus, 2 items on Riven, 3 items on Corki. Is that the right way to do things? No, it is not. You're going to be playing much more effectively if you focus your items on 1 unit at a time, at most 2. So the ideal setup is to do stuff like 1 damage dealer and 1 frontliner. Finish 1 carry first and then move on to the next one. If you get item augments, which are really good in this comp, it helps you get a lot more items, and then you could fill all 3 champions out nice and easily. And if you get too many, you could always put the utility items on some of your other random units in the comp. But pretty much the most important thing to do is to focus on 1 unit at a time. So in the early game, if you're able to build like 2 backline items, obviously you won't have Corki at that time. Maybe you have something like a Caitlyn or maybe like a Gnar. Try to focus on getting that 3-item Gnar up and running. If you happen to have tank items, sure, build them. Like, don't save every component for the backline. For example, like Chain and Negatron isn't going to be used for Gnar or Corki, so obviously you would just build the Stone Plate on Rammus. But if possible, when you're choosing items on the God stages or from like your item augments, try to build an item on a unit that already has items and try to get them to 3 items as quickly as possible, because that's going to be the highest impact thing you can do in your team comp, even if the items are quote-unquote suboptimal, because winning early rounds makes the later rounds a lot easier to play because you'll just have more gold and more life. And then with more gold and more life, you're able to hit deeper levels, play more units, and also hit your units much easier. So that's what you should be doing if you're focus on a melee carry, build the melee items. If you're focused on the backline carry, build the backline items. Obviously, you should always have some semblance of tank items, but I think that's one of the most important tips I have for Corki Riven out there right now. But pretty much this is the comp. It's just 5 Meeple. You could also play Mighty Mech. He's a good solid option there. He gives you Voyager, which is a nice helper trait for a lot of units, and it pairs up pretty nicely because Meepsie is also a Voyager. If you do play this comp with an emblem, which is pretty solid to do, you could always fit in a Bard and get to 7 Meeple at level 9. And then you can simply put the Meeple emblem on either Riven or the Mighty Mech, or just one random legendary that you're playing during that time. By the way, you do not need the Meeple emblem. In fact, I don't even think it's required at all. That's why I don't list it in the conditions here, but if you happen to get it, you happen to get it. And then obviously Bard is going to be a nice add-in later on. But pretty much the reason why Meeple emblem is not really that great is because 7 Meeple is more of like an econ trait rather than a combat trait. It allows you to print units on your board, which while it is good, and I do play 7 Meeple in the mid game, in the late game during the fights, it doesn't actually add that much when you get to 7 Meeple compared to other 7 trait breakpoints. That's kind of why the emblem is not as important for this build. But pretty much this is just a standard fast 8 comp. Go to 4-2, Corki Riven Rammus, and try to get some item augments. If you're win streaking, it makes the comp a lot easier to play. Fast 8 is best from win streak. It is doable from a lose streak only if you have like super duper econ augments, or if you're able to stabilize really hard in stage 3 randomly. Like maybe you got restart mission or something like that. But overall, like you want to be at least winning half your rounds in order to play a fast 8 comp, just because it's really rough otherwise. But one other thing to note is that Riven can use both AD and AP items, but since Corki is AD, you generally want to build Riven in an attack damage version, because that way your Last Whisper works out for both of them, or your Even Shroud works out for both of them, and that way you won't have to build 2 utility items to shred and sunder. You could just focus on sundering, which is reducing armor. Other tips is that Thieves Gloves is pretty good on Riven, and it's one of those like cheater ways to get full items on everyone without having to take item augments, and in those cases you would take combats or econ instead. But overall, very solid comp, very simple to play, classic 4-cost fast 8 comp. Next up we have is 6 Darkstar. What I love about this build is that there's so many different versions of this. My favorite is probably going to be the Asol version. This one is a AP-centric comp, but you could go with Riven, you could go with Xayah. It really depends what items you're hitting that game, but pretty much the base of the comp is the same every time. It's going to be 6 Darkstar, ideally with a spatula, and then Nunu. After that, you just fill in random traits based on who your carry is. So if you're carrying Jhin, you want to add in Xayah for sniper. If you're carrying with Kaisa, then add in a Riven if you have Riven items. And then if you have a lot of AP items, go for the Asol build there. But yeah, contrary to the Meeple comp, Darkstar is much, much better with an emblem. Don't believe me? Head on over to teamfight.lol, add Meeple to the trait tracker and then Meeple emblem. You'll see that this averages a 4.5. But without the emblem, it actually averages better, which is hilarious, right? That's for both 5 and 7 Meeple. Contrast that with Darkstar. If you have the Darkstar emblem and 6 Darkstar, well, you're going to be averaging 4.01 with the emblem, and you are going to be averaging 3.83 without it. But the important caveat here is that there's some bias to the data. When you get to 6 Darkstar without the emblem, it means you hit Jhin. That means you're able to get likely to level 9, or you got really lucky on level 8, which means that you are probably doing well that game anyways, and that's why it's performing a little bit better. Contrast that to Meeple, where you do not need to get Bard to hit 7 or 5 Meeple, which makes the emblem not as useful. So for example, if we have the 6 Darkstar with the Jhin in, without the emblem it's 3.83, but with the emblem it's going to be 3.57. So that's why it improves it even more, because you're able to hit 6 Darkstar without the Jhin. But then eventually when you do hit the Jhin, you're going to be doing a lot better than without the emblem. But that's the weird thing about data sometimes. Like obviously getting a legendary highly skews it, but you can kind of tell whether an emblem is required or not based on that simple exercise that we just did. But going back to the comps, this version is super good right now because holy cow, like Asol or Karma, whoever you 2-star first is going to be your item holder. So in the early game, you're going to be building AP items, and whatever 3 items you get Karma 2, put the items on Karma. You get Asol 2, put the items on Asol. Doesn't really matter which. And then once you get both of them to 2-star, you could distribute your items however you want. You could put like whatever's best on Asol on him and whatever's best on Karma on her. I like Karma as the utility item holder and Asol as like the crit carry, but honestly Karma does a great job on her own carrying herself also. The main core of this version though is going to be again the 6 Darkstar plus Willump, and then you also add in Tahm Kench. She's a great tank to have. This is another great reason why I love playing Darkstars. You have 2 tank options and 2 damage options, and it doesn't really matter what you hit. If you have Tahm Kench 2 and Nunu 1, put the items on Tahm Kench. If you have Nunu 2, Tahm Kench 1, put the items on Nunu. If you have both of them 2-star, what I like to do is put the mana items onto Nunu and then the super tank items on Tahm Kench. But I always prioritize putting 3 items on one of them. So whoever has more items that fit them, they're going to get the 3rd item. Same thing for these other versions out here. So another thing you could do is instead of playing Tahm Kench, you could even play Mighty Mech. Mighty Mech gives Voyager for your Karma, and it's another option to use as a 4-cost tank. So that's why this is my favorite version. You have so many tank options out there, and the power level of the comp is pretty good too. Next up we have is a sniper version. You really only play this if you're able to get 2-star Jhin, which is very rare. I wouldn't normally play for this. Normally you're playing around Xayah, which means you're playing the rogue version. So in the rogue version, Xayah, I don't know. They nerfed her a little bit. She still feels like a 4-cost carry as a 3-cost. Shojin IE plus any 3rd item, and she's just going to be blasting people really hard. Obviously, blue buff works instead of Shojin too. The thing is, I like to save my tiers for Nunu because getting Protector's Vow is so important on him because Nunu really needs to cast really quickly. After that, you add in Pantheon and Riven. Pantheon gives you both Brawler with Cho'Gath and also gives you Timebreaker with Riven. And then Riven gets Rogue from Xayah, and she also gets a Darkstar spat. So with the Darkstar spat, you can get to 6 Darkstar very easily. And also, to finish off your Riven build, just do Sterix plus 1 healing item, either Hand of Justice or Bloodthirster. And that's pretty much all you need to get this comp going. Very strong option there. You can roll on 7 to get Xayah 2-star and stabilize, or you could just go to level 8 on 4-2. Both option works. It depends on how many pairs you have in stage 3. I've even seen some people re-roll the Xayah. If you just happen to natural a lot of Xayahs, and then on stage 4-2 for the augment stage, you get like 2 champion duplicators, you might as well just re-roll Xayah really quickly, and then play the regular level 8 comp after that. I'm not saying this happens often, but it's one of those options out there, and then you get this super carry pretty much for free in those games where you just happen to get a lot of Xayahs. But overall, very, very strong comp, and Darkstar emblem probably going to be the best emblem out there right now. Next build up we have is the Vex Fast 9 build. This is just standard Fast 9. A lot of people, they win streak 10 fights in a row. They get to stage 3-7 and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to play this. Every time I do this and try to Fast 9, I lose. And a big reason why that happens is because 4-cost units are the main tanks of the set. And in the previous patch, Morgana was a 5-cost. But now Morgana's a 4-cost, which makes this comp a lot easier to play and a lot better to play because now, no matter what, you're going to have some form of tank that you could roll for on level 9 and get a solid front line. In the previous patch, the only 4-cost tanks were Nunu, Tahm Kench, the Mighty Mech, and Rammus. Those are like the 4 tank traits out there and the 4 tank 4-costs. And when that happens, when you go Fast 9, everyone takes all the good tanks out of the pool and you can't get a 2-star tank and then you lose the game. But now in this patch, you get Morgana added into that as well. So you have more options at 4-cost tank. And for some reason, in 5-cost, there are no tanks, like Shen and Blitzcrank are not tanks, they're damage units. But it makes this comp much more stable because you always need a balance between damage and tankiness, and that's exactly what this new patch did, which makes Vex Fast 9 back in the S tier. But one thing to note is that there's the Graves version and the no Graves version. It's pretty much just the same thing. You just replace Graves with anything you want. Pretty much when you play Fast 9, you always want to play around your 2-star legendary. The one exception I'll make is with Vex. If Vex is 1-star, the only user of Rageblade in this comp is going to be Vex. So you kind of have to put it on her. But for every other item out there, whoever you 2-star, that's who you're going to be building around. Like if you have Fiora items, best in slot, but you have a 1-star Fiora, 2-star Graves, I'm putting the items on my Graves because 2-star is just better than 1-star. Unfortunately, when a lot of people look at guides, they don't adapt it to their game. They kind of just copy paste no matter what. But here I am telling you, focus on your 2-stars because that's where you're going to get the most power. It might sound simple as a concept, but I promise you a lot of people do not do that. They just see an item on a unit on a team builder and then they just automatically put it on them no matter what. But you have a lot of different options as carries here. Like obviously Shen and Blitzcrank can still do some work. I wouldn't consider them primary carries, but they are solid secondaries. And then Nunu, main tank, Morgana, utility tank. And I like playing this combo of Aatrox plus a Kali. It gives the Nova bonus, which gives me magic penetration, armor penetration, and also precision to my team, which allows everyone's abilities to critically strike. So it's just a very cheap way to get a lot more power on your board while saving your budget for the legendary 2-stars that you're hopefully going to be getting during that game. But the way to play Fast 9 is you need to be able to get to level 9 comfortably. What does that mean? That means either playing a level 8 comp and then pivoting into this comp. So you could play like Leblanc. Leblanc is a great Rageblade holder, pretty much uses whatever Vex uses, and then you slowly transition into this comp. Another way you can do Fast 9 comfortably is if you won every single game that we talked about in the earlier scenario where you go 10-0, you're at 100 life stage 4-1. In those cases, you can lose every round in stage 4, level up to level 9 on stage 5-1, and have like 60, 70 gold to roll down with. You will be hitting 2-star legendaries if you do that. The last way to do it, and this is the most difficult way, is if you get the super econ augments such as like level up, hedge fund, things like that, you are sometimes able to Fast 9 if and only if you don't do like a pure lose streak. If you're able to go like maybe win 30 or 40% of the rounds from stage 1 until stage 4-1, you might be able to get away with a Fast 9 if you have one of the super econ augments. It's not something that I would like super hard force with it if I get one of them, but it is definitely something I will consider if I have something like Hedge Fund. Level Up's a bit of a curious case because Level Up is really only good if you have a lot of gold at the beginning of the game. So if you are on an encounter that gives a lot of gold, then Level Up is going to be really good. If you're in a game where stage 1 just drops a ton of gold and you have like 20 gold of interest on stage 2-1, Level Up is going to be extremely good. So in other situations though, it might be a lot worse because this augment directly scales with how much gold you have at the beginning of the game. But that's kind of how this comp works. I really like it a lot. Fast 9 is a bit more difficult to play though compared to the other comps that we went over because you need to know board strength from unconventional boards, which really only comes with TFT experience. So if you played the set a lot, you're going to be more comfortable with Fast 9. If you haven't, it's going to be a bit worse. By the way, I do have recommended Graves build paths down here. I like Assault Frame the most. That's the one that turns him into a attack fighter. But I've seen the other Graves paths work also if you have very specific items that are tailored to that. Next up we have, it's going to be the A tier. We have Asol AP Flex. This one is really fun because, I don't know, I just like Asol. Asol's a cool unit, and he's the rare exception of AP units that pretty much only uses AP items. Most other AP units, they like having like 1 mana item, Jeweled Gauntlet, and then the third item doesn't matter. But Asol kind of breaks that pattern a little bit. He still likes Jeweled Gauntlet, but he loves AP, and that's what I love about him. You don't need to build a mana item on him because he doesn't really use them very well. The way the unit like moves around and such, and he has Conduit, it just doesn't make him absolutely need the AP items. If you upgrade him in the mech form also, like Shojin is pretty much useless. But if you just look at the data here, like Jeweled Gauntlet, Hat, Giant Slayer, Striker's Flail, all those items are just extremely, extremely good on the Asol because he just doesn't need the mana as much as other champions because he gets it from Conduit. But he's got 2 builds. He has the Mecha and the Vanguard version. It really just depends on, honestly, what items you're getting. Mighty Mech really, 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 really wants Stoneplate because he's a fantastic solo tank. But Vanguard is really good if you have the Protector's Vow. So that's kind of like the trick there. Kind of depends what you get from that standpoint. But the core of the comp is the same. It's just Asol Karma plus some frontline. That's really all there is to it. This one's great because you play like Mighty Mech, Nunu, and Tahm Kench. This one mainly just relying more on Vanguard. So if you do get a Vanguard start, maybe you have like Vanguard Teemo at the start of the game. You're like, oh, maybe I go Leblanc. You never finish a Rage Blade. And then you're like, oh, let me go into Asol because I have a lot of Rod items, but no Rage Blade. That's kind of when you would decide to go for this. So I like that gives different options there. Also, if you get like Bronze for Life, this says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different Bronze for Life traits, which is really nice. You could kind of consider doing that too. But items are the same. Karma utility items, Asol, the damage items, and then tank items differ based on who you are playing. Just go fast 8 for this. It's also good with emblems because you can mix and match a lot of traits. So if you get one that like Trait Tree, that one gives 3 emblems. It's really nice for this. I don't really like this comp so much with the Spatula. So if you just get a Spatula or like 1 emblem, I don't like it as much. But if you get multiple, I like it because there's a lot of different ways you could get value from it because you pretty much can flex the entire thing. Like you don't have to play anything you see on your screen apart from Asol and some form of tank. But that's pretty much how I would approach this. Some gods I like for this are going to be Kale and Echo. So if you ever do get those on your map, those are some things to kind of lean into, but obviously it works in pretty much every god. Next build up we have is going to be the Brawler Yi build. So this one's still solid. I know a lot of people were playing this a lot last patch, myself included. It's a very strong build. You could hard force it in the previous patch anytime you wanted, and yeah, it's absolutely great. This patch, however, I'd say with Malware Matrix, it definitely gets bumped up maybe like half a tier. Not a full tier, but half a tier. And then if you get one of the useless ones, like the AP ones, like, let me see, who's an AP character in this comp? No AP characters. So if you do get an AP psionic item, I'd bump this down a full tier, and I would only go for this if I have an absolutely disgusting good melee start, or if I hit Yi really early on for some reason. But if you get one of like the generic AD Yi items, or if you get the tank item, or maybe a really good artifact for Master Yi, that's when I'd hard force this comp. And you might be wondering like, oh, how do I know which psionic item I should play with this comp? Well, you just go to teamfight.lol, go to the Explorer tool, put in 4 Brawler, 4 Marauder, and then you go to items, take this filter off, and then go to psionic items. And here, you'll see exactly what you need to make it work. So obviously, the AD ones are going to be best with Malware Matrix. That's why Malware Matrix is in the picture here. But Target Lock Optics still good. You don't even have to put it on Yi. It could go on literally anyone. But then after that, you have the tank one, which is what I like. You really just don't want the AP ones, but you can kind of see the average placement differences between all these, which directly impacts what you are going to be playing with this comp. But yeah, pretty much the main item that you need on Yi, though, is going to be the Edge of Night. That's going to be the most important one. After that, Giant Slayer is a kind of like a next favorite because he often gets stuck on tanks, like he's attacking tanks first, so getting the Giant Slayer out there just gives him pretty much guaranteed value. But yeah, the way this build works is you get to level 8. I like playing from Win Streak, but it's not absolutely required, but I do recommend it. And then just get some utility items on Tom Kench, Sunfire, Even Shroud, a great combo there. Prioritize Yi items, the Edge Knight and the Giant Slayer. If you get Kindred to 2-star, get attack speed items, and then if you get Fiora, pretty much get another Edge Knight and then all the generic melee AD items, because Fiora is another great way to cap off this comp. And if you ever get a bunch of emblems, especially Marauder emblem or Brawler emblem, absolutely incredible in this build because you get to go for 6 Brawler or 6 Marauder. Master Yi, like, Brawler Emblem is one of his, like, really good items. Last patch, it was really, really good. It's at 4.55 right now, but last patch, it was absolutely incredible. We could go to that right here. Right now, it's at 4.55, but obviously that's because it's on 4 Brawler. If you go to 6 Brawler with this, it goes to 3.65. It's one of Master Yi's absolute best items, the Brawler Emblem. So if you ever get that, it's really, really nice to have. But pretty much like emblems are just really good in this comp because both Brawler and the Marauder emblem, I guess Marauder emblem's not here because you can't put it on Yi, but you can put it on someone else, is really good. And then also getting like a Nova emblem is pretty solid as well. You could sometimes get to 5 Nova, which is really nice for Master Yi. 5 Nova Yi with the strike selector is absolutely incredible too. But yeah, that's why you kind of like the emblems here. You need to just play around what you get, but pretty much anything you get here is going to be more than solid. Next build up we have is going to be the Lulu Reroll. Lulu Reroll is going to be a great lose streak option. So if you're lose streaking, you want to hard force this every game, all the more power to you, you know? But the build for Lulu is just going to be the double Nashers Jeweled Gauntlet build. I think that's the most popular one right now. Obviously, there are different versions. You could do like a Shojin, Nashers, JG, things like that. But in terms of the constellations that you want, if you get Mountain and you're able to play Stargazer early, it's still really good. Obviously, like, you don't have the Horizon Focus cheese that you got in the last patch because they removed Horizon Focus, but it's still good if you get this early because you get a ton of the emblems. Medallion's good, Fountain's good, Serpent is still good, but pretty much you want to go for this comp if you get a Lulu Orb. Also, Lulu is pretty solid with some artifact items. If we check it out over here, we'll just type in Lulu, we'll put in 3-star 3 items, and then we could go on into the artifacts and see that she has a lot of things she can use. So Dawn Core going to be absolutely incredible because she likes to cast a ton. Eternal Pact, this one kind of works in the same way. It just gets her to cast really often. Obviously, Ari's Aura, it's still good even if it shows 4.29. I mean, any AP artifact item, if you pop the artifact anvil, like, you're not going to not take it, you know? But as you can see, there are a ton that work out pretty well on her. But if it gives ability power, it's going to be good. And you don't have to always go for AP items also. You could go for a tank one as well. So the tanks in this comp is going to be Pantheon, Jax, or Maokai. So if we add those 3 champions here, Pantheon and Maokai, you'll see that a lot of the tank artifacts work out really well too. Like Soraka's Miracle is nice, Light Shield Crest is nice, the Indomitable, like pretty much any of them work in the same exact way. But pretty much artifact good. That's all you need to know from that whole analysis. After that, you could secondary carry. Milio's pretty good for holding utility items. And then tank is just whoever you 3-star. But this comp is good if you get stuff like reroll augments, such as anything that gives rerolls. You could do like Wise Spending. That one's pretty nice for 3-cost reroll. Bronze for Life works out for this comp really nicely also because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Bronze for Life traits. But really, you have to to do everything in your power you can to get Lulu to 3-star. After that, with augments, you want to focus on getting her more strength, which the easiest way to do that is with like artifacts or radiant items. Pretty easy comp to play. This is pretty good from lose streak because you could just stabilize really easily on stage 3-2 or 3-5. 3-2 you could stabilize with Milio 2, 3-5 you could stabilize with Lulu 2. Both options work. It kind of depends on how many pairs you have at each point in the game. And you also have the added bonus of being able to play 3 Timebreaker, which gives you a ton of econ in the early game and a lot of rerolls. But definitely play this. It got nerfed a tiny bit, but very, very, very slight. That's why it's still in the A tier. But yeah, the B tier comps are still playable, right? Like Vanguard Flex, it's still good to get into Vex. After that, we have stuff like Urgot reroll. If you get like super artifact items, it's good. But yeah, all the A tier comps are all solid still. Or sorry, the B tier comps are all solid still. They're just a bit situational, and you kind of like don't want to plan your game around them. You know, you're not like happy that you're like, oh, I'm going for, what is it, like Meeple Veigar. You're like, yes. No, you don't do that. You don't say yes. You're like, okay, I guess I go Meeple Veigar this game because I have like 10 Veigars on stage 2-1. It's not that you're going to do horribly with it. It's just not something you plan out your day around. It's kind of like if your favorite fruit is strawberries and you go to the fruit stand, but they have like really ripe mangoes. Like mangoes are pretty good, right? And you're like, all right, yeah, I'll just take the mangoes. Mangoes are riper than the strawberries. And then you're like, all right, let's go for that. Not the best analogy because I love mangoes also. Okay, think of a fruit you don't like that much, but it's really ripe. That's where I'd put the B tier comps right now. But 6 comps is all you pretty much need to master this patch. If you get these 6 down, like everything else after that is going to be a bonus. And don't worry too much if you get contested. Like obviously getting contested doesn't feel great, but 4-cost comps, it generally can allow like 2 players to go for it. I'm assuming if you are going for something, you have a reason for going for it. And in those cases, if you have a like 1-star copy of the unit, you can generally live like a couple of rounds before you get it to 2-star. Like obviously you still want the 2-star and need the 2-star, but if they're strong, you can kind of get away with it for a little bit. And with stuff like Darkstar, like they're really flexible. I'm telling you guys, like you don't have to do Asol carry, you could do Karma carry. You don't have to do Nunu as your main tank, you could do Tahm Kench or the Mighty Mech. Like there's a ton of different options there, which is why, again, if you get contested, it's not that bad. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm going to be doing an opener guide sometime in the next couple of days, so definitely look out for that. All info is on the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta, where we pretty much update this every single time there's a reason to. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.